Hey everybody, Misty Williams here with Healing Rosie, and I am thrilled to have our next guest on to talk about something that has been getting lots and lots of airtime in our space. Unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard the CBD conversation going on a lot. People talking about the unbelievable medical benefits of CBD. We're seeing it legalized in a lot of states here in the US. I personally have become a huge fan of CBD. I use it to help me sleep on those nights when I'm getting those cortisol surges at 2 or 3 a.m. and I wake up and can't go back to sleep. I think it's wonderful. My partner, Roderick, uses CBD. And what's really been cool is watching all the innovation that's coming out in our space using CBD. It's almost like, we've come to this place where we're understanding more about the endocannabinoid system. And now how can we leverage this amazing technology, I want to call it, to really improve our body? So I have Kriss Berg on with me today, and we're going to jump in and talk a little bit more about CBD and the benefits of CBD and some really interesting things that Kriss is doing with his company. So welcome, Kriss.
Thank you, Misty. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well, we were having some really interesting dialogue before we got started here about CBD. And, we've heard about, different people that are developing products. We've had the conversation about purity and how important it is to make sure that you're using products. I really want to have a different conversation today. I want to talk more about the endocannabinoid system.
Right.
Because there's so many implications of CBD and benefits from CBD. And you were sharing some really interesting things about how Mother Nature has kind of infused these endocannabinoids in all sorts of different places, maybe some that we wouldn't even expect. Why don't you kind of unpack that for us a little bit?
Yeah. So we're discovering cannabinoids, which is what is present in CBD, obviously, really throughout the body. We're just now beginning to understand what these cannabinoids do. They've discovered cannabinoids in breast milk. They believe cannabinoids boost the brain cell production in the body, brain stem cells specifically, and other kinds of stem cells throughout the body. So we're just now beginning to understand. There hasn't been a lot of research over the past, 80 some years, because it's been illegal. And now it's really exploding, and we're really seeing how these cannabinoids work in the body, and we're discovering new uses all the time. And one thing that I've really come to realize over the last 6 months is that the cannabinoids aren't just something that's nice to have in the body. It isn't I don't believe that CBD is something that is sort of optional anymore for most people. Because these cannabinoids are so essential and so important to the body's functionality, that I do believe that everybody needs some kind of cannabinoid supplementation. And the easiest way to do that is with CBD. And like many people get B12 shots, or they take a multivitamin. Remember 10 years ago, the hottest thing was CoQ10, right? We discovered how important CoQ10 was for our body's functionality and for regenerating our cells. And now it's really present in all multivitamins, right? You really don't find a basic supplement that doesn't have CoQ10. I believe CBD is going that direction as well. We're finding out that it's really not just a nice to have, it's imperative for your body's basic functionality. And even if people aren't feeling tremendous benefits, we get a lot of reviews and testimonials for people who just have these massive benefits. For people who don't feel just drastically better, I do feel like over the long term, for their long-term health, CBD is doing really important things for their bodies. So what I tell people now is that CBD eventually will become like a vitamin C, a CoQ10. I think it'll surpass turmeric, and it's just something that almost all of us take every day.
So I had a fascinating conversation last year with Dr. Kriss Shade over at Quicksilver. And I really loved how he connected some dots on the endocannabinoid system and our nervous system, because one of the things, and this is really for women who are experiencing a lot of fatigue, especially fog, and you feel like you're trying the different hacks that people say work, or the different protocols that you hear other women saying, oh my God, I did this and it was amazing. And you're like, God, that just isn't working for me the same. Like, what's wrong with me? And I have been there, and I have been that woman. And one of the things I've learned doing all these amazing interviews with some of the most brilliant practitioners in our space.
Yeah.
I also learned from my own journey working with a practitioner who said, before we can tackle anything else in the body, we first have to deal with the high levels of stress. Your nervous system is vibrating at such a high level.
Yep.
It is so sympathetic, right? That healing just cannot happen. And I loved the interview with Christopher Shade where he talked about leveraging CBD at the very beginning of his entire detox protocol, because taking CBD really helps to relax a nervous system that's overstressed. And I know that there are so many women who are watching this right now that hear what I'm talking about. You know, we have stressors externally that we know about, but here's the rub. For me, a big stressor that I had that I didn't know about was Epstein-Barr virus. And my Epstein-Barr was so activated. My immune system was on heightened alert all the time, that all these healing things I was trying to do, the body just didn't have resources for it because I was just, so wired. So I really love the potential of what CBD can do for us. I love the idea that at the beginning of the healing process, before we start getting into like deep detoxing and even gut healing and all the things we know are important, first we're supporting our nervous system in bringing it down a couple of notches so the body can actually heal. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit maybe about the relationship between the endocannabinoid system and the nervous system, how these things complement each other, or maybe not complement, how they work together to really help us understand what's going on.
Yeah, so one of the most popular and really scientific studies, there's been a lot of sort of small studies about CBD. There's a lot more coming out. But one of the studies that's most often quoted, I believe it was out of Brazil, was around public speaking. Now, if you've paid attention to, phobias, you know that public speaking is really one of the top ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's right up there with death.
Right.
And so what they did was they gave a control group a placebo and they gave the testing group CBD and then had them speak. And they measured all these things, and the CBD group outperformed the control group by leaps and bounds. Their anxiety was way lower. They performed much better on stage. And so if CBD can control the nervous system, that's really all about the nervous system.
Right, totally.
Your nervous system really taking over. Your central, your primal fears are taking over in those situations. And if CBD can help control those, then you're absolutely right. Your body can take over all these functionalities. Because when you're in stressful situations, everything else, including digestion, the immune system, your hormone system, everything else takes a back seat, right? Stress control takes over. And what we've seen in other studies is that they've measured the brain waves of CBD takers and control groups. What they're really seeing is that, we have these big dips and valleys. Like if you were looking at your brain waves, it looks like a sine curve, right? This big wave. And really what CBD does at the end of the day to the brain is just evens that out. It really just calms those brain waves. And so when you can do that, everything else is a little bit easier, both mentally and physically. Your body can heal itself. It can bring everything back into balance. It can address the immune problems, digestion better. And so this is the main thing with CBD that we're seeing is the, anxiety control for one, that helps sleep. And then all of this other stuff flows from that. It reduces the inflammation in the body. So for me, when people ask what CBD does, I say it just is going to even out your body. It's going to calm down those waves, mentally, physically, emotionally. Just last Friday, I had a really stressful day. I had to pick up my son, and then he had to go to a meeting, and then I had to go to the store. It was one of those days when there just wasn't a moment to breathe. Like I literally forgot to eat. I forgot to go to the bathroom. You know how you have those days when you have to go to the bathroom for like 4 hours?
Yeah.
And I realized I got home and I was just this ball of stress. And I had a CBD gummy. And I would say about 15 minutes later, it was just all okay.
Yeah.
I realized that the things that gotten done that needed to get done, a few things hadn't, and it was just fine. In the past, really as recently as a year ago, I would have had alcohol. I would have had a big glass of vodka,
Right.
to be honest with you, as we all do, or a glass of wine.
Something to calm us down.
Just something, I gotta take this load off my shoulders, right? Now with the CBD, I get that same feeling of, I don't feel drunk, obviously, but I just have that relief.
Relax.
Without the negative effects of the big glass of vodka. Let's face it, affects your sleep. It affects your immunity, it affects your appetite, your weight gain, and all the negative things that go along with vodka. So for me, in that realm, CBD is sort of like, I kind of liken it to smoking marijuana without feeling high, right? You're relaxed and calm. You don't have the spaced out, like, oh, I want to jam out to Pink Floyd feeling. You just get all the benefits without that high. And for me, that is revolutionary. And it is for our clients too. Like that feeling is something they just haven't felt in years and sometimes decades.
So why don't you tell us, like, what is your backstory here? How did you kind of move into this space and start actually taking your knowledge about all of this and, creating products that people are raving about? Right.
Well, thank you for saying that. So my story is that I played 12 years of full contact football and then another 8 years of rugby on top of that in my younger years. And that just piled all these injuries on me. And I didn't, in my 20s, I thought I could just sort of live with them. As I hit my 30s, I just started having chronic pains. It was really everywhere. It was shoulders, it was knees, it was hips. And so in about 2009 or so, I finally decided that I needed to get some relief. And of course, I did what most people do. I went to my doctor and he prescribed Oxycontin. And I had a lot of friends whose lives were ruined by Oxycontin. They were addicted. They were buying it off the street at that point. And I just realized that I went to my physician and he gave me something that was ruining my friends' lives. Like it was nothing. Like, oh, here you go. You'll be fine. I never took a single pill. And he actually gave me some other things when he found out that I didn't want it. Turns out they were very addictive too. They were essentially knockout versions of, opioids. And so I just realized this system is broken. This is, why am I going to the doctor and getting something that could really ruin my life? And when I asked him those questions, he had no answers. He didn't think there was a problem with it. He said, if you can't handle this, then that's on you. So I realized that the whole system was broken. So I dove into the research and I tried everything. I tried acupuncture. I went to a million different chiropractors. Went to the ladies, that do the little bowls and the candles and the incense over here. I have some insane stories about some of these therapies I've gone to. Nothing really worked, obviously. Right about that time, marijuana became legal in Colorado. And I had a friend who was a chemist, a very highly qualified guy. He was working for a big chemical company and decided he didn't want to do that. Went into marijuana because it had helped his mother get over cancer treatments. And he called it hemp extract at that point. It was not called CBD. And he said, you got to try this. And I told him, I said, I never liked the high of marijuana, really. I tried it in college like everybody does, and it just made me feel weird. I would get up in my head, and I just did not enjoy it. I told him I don't want that. And he said, this is not that. This is an extract. The THC is removed. And just try it. So I tried it for about 3 days, and nothing happened. And at that point, he said, don't give up on it. And that's when we developed what we like to call the low dose methodology. And that was taking a lot of CBD in the beginning and then dropping down to a maintenance dose. And that was revolutionary for me. He initially told me to do what most people are doing now with CBD, and I believe it's erroneous, is they're starting at an extremely low dose and then going up, 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 up until they feel it. That's probably what you've heard from most CBD manufacturers. We take the exact opposite approach. We start you at a very high dose, usually 50 to 80 milligrams a day, and then you're going to probably feel really good after about a week, and then you can drop down to about 10 or 20 milligrams. What that does is it switches on the endocannabinoid system and really allows you to take a lower maintenance dose, because let's face it, CBD is expensive still, right? It's going to get cheaper in the years to come, but it is still very expensive. If you want to save money over the long run and still feel great, you take that low dose, a lot of it in the beginning, and you drop down to a much more affordable dose. And that's what turned my life around. Most of my pain was gone. I still have some from time to time, like everyone. But I mean, at one point I was unable to move, really. I was looking at 3 different surgeries. Of course, you know, every doctor I went to wanted to cut me open or give me more drugs. And now I don't really take anything. I have certain routines I do to keep mobility going, but CBD has really changed my life. And so after that, I realized at the time I had a construction business of all things, and wasn't enjoying that. And I decided I want to help people. And most importantly, I want to get people off these opioids. I want to solve this thing. And this was really before the opioid crisis hit. And so now that's Prosper Wellness's mission. Founded Prosper Wellness with my partner, Chaz, because he was interested in it as well. And his family grows hemp out on the Eastern Plains of Colorado. So he knew about the business. He knew about the logistics of the business and how to identify good hemp plants. And so that's our mission now, is to really solve the opioid crisis with CBD, help people live calm, happy lives, pain-free. And that's where it all started. That was a long story. Hopefully
that's great. So I'm thinking right now about a friend of mine who fell off a trampoline when she was 21 and has had terrible chronic back pain. Mm-hmm. For the last, I think she's in her late 30s now, so it's probably been 15 plus years.
Right.
And she's tried everything. And I'm thinking about her like, man, I really want to get this for Jamie to have her try it out. But
yeah.
But how, if someone has been on a strong opioid or other kind of pain meds, for Jamie, things quit working after a while, right? And then they quit working. How do you kind of transition from basically a pharmaceutical model of care to working with CBD? And especially I'm asking this question because a lot of people aren't going to have a doctor that's educated.
Right. So that's where really the low dose methodology comes in. Now I can't tell Jamie specifically what to do because I'm not a doctor. Got the legal stuff. But in somebody in that situation, we would tell them to start off with the strong low dose. So anywhere, if she's got that kind of pain where is she still taking the opioids?
I actually haven't talked to her about it in probably 6 months. She was getting shots in her back at one point.
Right.
Those were working and then they quit, so I think the doctors just keep rotating things.
Yeah. That's what they do. It's a shot in the dark. They're just going to keep trying things. So I would start her off, if I were helping her, I would start her off about 100 milligrams a day of full spectrum CBD. And you can do that. We have a turmeric and CBD mix. She could do that on her own, obviously. Get her turmeric and get a CBD, full spectrum CBD. Start those off together at about 100 milligrams a day for about a week and see if that improves things. And then possibly drop down to a maintenance dose somewhere. With somebody with severe pain like that, they're probably still going to need 30 to 50 milligrams a day. If she was in a state with legalized cannabis, there's a lot more options. And for people who have really severe chronic issues, we can definitely talk about those options. There's oils. If you've ever heard of Rick Simpson oil, it's basically a 1-to-1 THC to CBD ratio. That is incredibly effective for a lot of kinds of pain, especially that chronic pain from a severe injury. But if she's not in an area like that, then CBD is the best option. And I would start off with a low dose and drop her down. And there's also CBD topicals because she needs immediate pain relief. And the CBD can take a while. So I would give her some of our CBD pain freeze cream. And I would love to send Jamie a care package and have her try this stuff. I can't guarantee that it'll work. We do have about 5 to 9% of our clients say it just didn't do anything for them. And we're very upfront about that. It's really true of anything. Nothing is going to work for everyone, but we have tremendous success. And the reason I love this business, I'm so passionate about it, is because we get these letters from people saying, I'm off this drug, I'm off this drug. I got one Wednesday of last week from a guy who was on 2 different anxiety drugs and is off both of them after a month of our CBD. And he's going to his local grocery stores and telling them, you got to carry this stuff. It's so good. So it's just the stories are what keeps us going. So I would love to help your friend if she's interested.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. I hope all the Rosies who are listening will really consider how incorporating some kind of CBD regimen might support you in your own healing path. You know, some people are dealing with a lot of chronic pain. Some people are like me and you're dealing with a lot of internal and external stressors that are just flatlining your immune system and keeping you from being able to heal. I'm so excited about what CBD can do for all of us. So Kriss, thank you so much for taking a few minutes and educating us. And
thank you.
Man, you gave me so many things that I'm just gnawing on in my mind right now. And you guys, he has some of the best CBD products on the market. So if you're watching on Facebook, just check out the status. And if you're on YouTube, just look down below in the description.
Yep.
You can click on the link and see the amazing products that Kriss has formulated to help all of us to improve our lives with CBD, whether that's the turmeric formula for pain or some of the other formulas they have. This is really an exciting time. I'm so glad that we're able to even have these conversations and look at these options that our doctors aren't telling us about. So thank you so much.
Right. And feel free to drop questions below. It may take me a little bit to get back to those, but I will drop in just direct questions you have to me, and I'll be happy to answer those.
That'd be great. All right. Awesome. Well, I'll make sure you get added to the Healing Rosie Facebook group.
Awesome.
And you guys drop your questions below for Kriss. And thanks so much. We'll see y'all soon.
Thank you.